My name is Roy Hui. I know many of you, so thank you for accepting my invitation and coming down tonight. I am the CEO of Market Engine, and we help business to export. So we're really honored to be holding this event with the Victorian government to essentially help Victorian businesses who are doing e-commerce to participate, to exchange ideas, right? Personally, I really believe in open communications. I think when people with similar interests, like-minded, gather in the room, fantastic things will happen. But if you gather these people and give them beer and wine, amazing things will happen. but I truly believe that. So I think starting from this first event and with other events that we're doing, I encourage you to talk to other people in the room, people that you don't currently do business with, to do a bit of networking, to share ideas, share your experiences, and from there I think a lot of really interesting things will happen. I would like to invite Gnu here as well, maybe even just to tell us a little bit about how Victorian government is helping Victorian businesses, particularly in e-commerce and global e-commerce.
Sorry. Well, welcome everyone, and unfortunately our minister couldn't join us tonight, so I've had a promotion, but no, just kidding. We're very pleased to have you all here tonight. This is the first of our series around e-commerce workshop, so it's really around sharing the great stories of Victorian businesses and how they've gone about e-commerce, whether it's domestic or overseas. So we get a lot of inquiries around companies wanting to expand, and I think this can sometimes be seen as a low risk, but there are lots of challenges as well, and so we want to bring to you the best of the Victorian companies that are doing this space. So we are actually very pleased and honoured to be working with Market Engine. For us, Market Engine is a very trusted advisor, and we look to you for a lot of advice. So today's a great opportunity to get everyone in a room and to start to share those ideas. So from our perspective, we want to do a lot more of these. We are also running a lot of trade missions that will help connect companies into overseas markets, whether it be China. We're doing a lot of market research, which we're happy to share the insights around that, whether it be Southeast Asia. India is a new opportunity. So it's really about coming together, sharing ideas, and having an open conversation and learning from each other. So today's not about us talking, it's about hearing the amazing success stories. So I'll hand over to you all to get it started. Thanks again. Oh, and lastly, can I thank the amazing team here at VicGov who's helped put this together as well. So we have George Discala in the back. I'm going to make you stand, sorry. And Song Lei, who is also, he's out the front. So please feel free to grab Song, myself, or George, with the networking to continue afterwards. Thanks again.
Thank you, Gnu. I think this is a really good example of how Victorian government is facilitating trade and helping businesses, especially Victorian businesses. So the first guest speaker that we have for you tonight is Mark from Catch a Day, the Catch Group. So big round of applause. Welcome, Mark.
Great. So I think we'll get the slides fired up here. But I just wanted to introduce myself. Thank you very much for coming this evening. I know it's not easy on a Tuesday night to get off of work and come straight to another event. It makes your day very long, but hopefully we can impart some great information with you today, and very happy to share during the Q&A later on and kind of panel a little bit more in depth. My presentation is a little bit high level. I wasn't quite sure of the folks that were going to be in the room, so happy to dive a little bit deeper during the Q&A later on. Again, my name is Mark Gray, so I'm head of cross-border trade and marketplaces for the Catch Group. So who here in the room has actually shopped on catch.com.au or Scoopon or Mumgo or any of, okay, most people, that's great. So we're Australia's number one pure play online retailer. So that means a retailer that doesn't physically have a bricks and mortar operations yet. We just operate purely online. We actually have a group of 5 different businesses that we have built over the years, and about 6 months ago now, time flies, acquired Pumpkin Patch out of administration, and we're looking to relaunch them actually in the next 2.5 weeks. So a lot going on, certainly within the group. We're very proud of the fact, despite my American accent, that we are Aussie-based, we're Melbourne-based, and very proud of it. And I'm hoping to impart a bit of information today. But first, we're going to dive into a bit of my background. So this is my family, my siblings. I actually grew up in Colorado originally, grew up there, and I actually have a twin brother, so I'll let you guess which one is which. We're identical twins. I know which one I am. But yeah, so grew up in a very humble situation, and certainly back in the mid-'70s in rural Colorado. No computers, nothing obviously back then to do with online. But I always had a very much of an entrepreneurial spirit and looking at building things and being a part of things. So my history kind of starts with a couple things. My professional background, straight out of high school, I had a full ride scholarship to play tennis for Colorado State University with my twin brothers. With my twin brother, we were doubles partners and won a scholarship. But for some crazy reason, my twin brother talked me into joining the military. So we abandoned that scholarship. I think at the time we wanted to explore the world outside of mountains. Let's go out to the ocean and get seasick and explore the rest of the world. So we joined the Coast Guard at the same time, went through boot camp together, which was quite an interesting experience. I can share some stories over a couple cocktails later. But I was in the Coast Guard for about 12 years. And during that time was able to explore a couple of different entrepreneurial activities, got into a bit of real estate and such, but that really set the foundation for discipline. And that, within business, as we all know, is quite important to make sure that you're regimented, that from a day-to-day perspective, that you're going to stick to your goals. You're going to set your goals, you're going to stick to them, and make sure that you achieve them by any means necessary. So certainly shout out my background. So my twin brother is actually still in the Coast Guard. He's actually currently in Miami doing some search and rescue activities, head of communications there. So a lot going on with the Coast Guard. But again, that set the foundation. From there, I actually moved to London with my wife and joined a company called Channel Advisor. And that's actually, they're based here in Melbourne as well, but that opened me up to the e-commerce world. Beforehand, going back to being an entrepreneur, I kind of have the eBay badge up there. So whilst I was in the Coast Guard, I was actually selling products online with eBay, and it was secondhand products that I had acquired, and created quite a business from it. To the point where my commander, I had a clearance back then, and it came up in my tax statements that I was making over $50,000 from an alternative source. And so that was brought up during question of like, what is this alternative source? What's this eBay? So unfortunately, I had to shut that down at the time to keep my clearance. But yeah, so got onto eBay, and that's what really impassioned and emboldened me about online and the opportunity. So my username at the time was Crazy Stamp Lady. So I'm not a lady. I don't think I'm crazy, but I was selling stamps, and I found out that online you can be anybody you want to be, in the sense that it doesn't matter what you're selling, it doesn't matter who you are. If you offer a great service, if you offer great products, you're able to sell anything. And that's really how I started out in the online space. And again, going back to my entrepreneurial spirit, what got me into it. So when I got out of the Coast Guard, moved to London, joined Channel Advisor, who is a company that helps retailers and businesses sell their products online globally. I got into Amazon at that point in time and started learning about the opportunities there and the massive opportunity from a marketplace perspective. And I expect a lot of you to ask me questions later about Amazon, which I won't go into now. From Channel Advisor in London, I moved here about 7.5 years ago, opened up their office, built out a fairly large team here in Melbourne and Sydney, expanded into Singapore, Hong Kong, Shenzhen, and Shanghai with the business, and again, helping retailers to sell cross-border trade into other marketplaces such as Tmall, Amazon China, and other global marketplaces. I then joined Tomando, which is a shipping aggregation company, which is about 12 months of my life I enjoyed. I got into logistics and understood that. But I'm now at Catch Group, and I've been here for about a year. On the next slide, it kind of showcases, you guys would see with Catch Group, we actually launched a marketplace just shy of about 3 months ago. So we're allowing third-party sellers to sell their products onto Catch. And that's really been important because Catch, we have a really big warehouse here in Melbourne, and we have 27,000 products, but we can't do things like trampolines and chicken hutches and all sorts of large things that people randomly will buy. The biggest seller last week was mannequin heads, ironically. Not sure why. Regional areas, not sure. But people will buy stuff. People are hungry for products that they can't find locally. So we've been able to grow that, quite proudly and allow other international sellers to sell their products, but also have a big focus on domestic sellers selling their products to Aussies. So I admit my wife helped me with the slide. She made me throw this in there. But I've actually had a lot of opportunity to deal with online retailers and giving advice online. She made me throw this in there because 3 years ago to the day, I actually predicted that this year would be the year that Amazon comes to Australia, and indeed that's the case. So they'll be launching in about 4 to 6 weeks, are the projections, and allowing third-party sellers. So if any of you are interested in selling on Amazon as far as their new marketplace, get a hold of them. And it's going to be a big opportunity and something that is really going to change things from a customer service perspective and expectations of what people, what customers demand as far as shipping and getting products in a timely fashion. So what are the first steps for e-commerce? Again, this is very high level, but start with the simplest thing. So if you're brand new to e-commerce, if you've never done it before, I've seen so many companies go down the rabbit hole of spending thousands and thousands of dollars on a website. You don't need to do that nowadays. There's so many great low-cost options. Go to the Shopify, BigCommerces of the world. NATO, who is also another Aussie company, a great example of a low-cost, low-barrier entry. Get your products up there. Start with marketplaces. So I'm a big marketplace fan. However, marketplaces, even at Catch Group, is an opportunity for us to test products. So if you have a new product that you're not quite sure, what should it be selling at? What is the interest of the general community? Are they going to buy this product? That's a great place to start. Low barrier to entry. There's typically no or very little listing fees. So you put the product up. If it sells, you pay a percentage. If it doesn't sell, there's your answer. Maybe you need to get better at your ad creative or your descriptions, your images, but you'll learn what the market will bear. And then don't focus just on being price competitive. This is my biggest mantra. Focus on customer service. Again, to my point, Amazon's coming and they're going to raise the bar. So you don't always have to be the cheapest, but you should always be the best at customer service. And that means if you're able to include a little bit of the shipping cost in the price, so you're a little bit more expensive, but you're able to offer free shipping, or you're able to, add a couple of folks that are going to respond to those customer service queries more quickly. That's going to be more effective. Value-driven products. So I was asked to kind of share a couple of examples of what has gone really well in my experience in my career. So one of the biggest has been with Catch Group launching cross-border trade, and that's why Market Engine is one of the folks that we've been speaking with to potentially go into China. I will say that China is not the easiest market to go into. Our first step is actually going to be going into Southeast Asia. And that's going to be on a marketplace called Lazada, if you haven't heard of it. So they cover 6 countries in Southeast Asia. That's very fast-paced. You have to be very smart on your pricing, but they really help with a lot of logistics. I believe you guys help with that as well. So we'll be looking at that. The next phase for us will definitely be China, but we decided to kind of dip our toe in the water and see how it goes. We also sell onto Trade Me in New Zealand, which is another marketplace. If you're thinking about ease of cross-border, that's probably the best place to start. New Zealand has a $400 threshold for GST, so you can ship products up to $400 without kind of worrying about that. Kiwis are so nice on their feedback and how they treat you. They're really accommodating on mess ups. So Australia Post actually has a pretty good service over there, so something definitely to think about if you haven't already. And again, it's in English, so it's very easy to, kind of, and the currency is fairly close to parity, so you have that opportunity. Sorry to go back.
Sorry.
And speaking of price parity, so that's one of the initiatives. It's been a big thing at Catch Group. If we're going to sell onto marketplaces or affiliate networks and they're charging us a percentage, shouldn't we up our price? That was kind of the question when I came into Catch Group. And fortunately, I was able to win the battle with the board group to say, you know what, it's actually not about covering your costs. I mean, if you're driving people back to your website, it's going to cost you potentially 40, 50 cents a click or $1 or $2 just to drive them to your website. So people shop for a lot of different reasons. So if they're already on eBay, for instance, if they're already on TradeMe, if they're already shopping on these affiliate networks, take advantage of that crowd mass, take advantage of that traffic. And people shop for many different reasons. And I'll get to this point here in a minute as well. I know I'm going over, but I'll get to this point here in a minute where, again, my wife is a very big shopper online, but she loves eBay. I can't even get her to shop on my marketplace, but she shops on eBay. She's had her PayPal account for many years, and she's a devoted customer. So I shouldn't be spending $5 or $6 on ad spend just to get her to come to my website. She wants to shop on eBay, that's awesome. I should put my products there. I should be everywhere where the customer is, right? And so when you think about cross-border trade, when you think about multi-channel, that should be the mindset. Maybe not all products that Catch Group sells is going to work on Lazada. We're going to learn over time. Not everything works on TradeMe. There's some restrictions. We can't apparently ship batteries. But you learn those things as you go on. And then helping retailers with cross-border trade potential. So when I was a channel advisor, again, going back to the story, there's a huge potential. You'd be amazed at what people will buy overseas. We've been amazed domestically what people will buy in regional areas just because they don't have easily and ready access to these products. So, as you sit here and as you think about how do I expand my business, think about those opportunities. You'd be surprised what people will buy. So what impact do these initiatives have? I kind of went through this quickly, but we've been able to grow our cross-border trade initiatives 300% month on month. So that's easy to say when you start with $1, but we've been doing it for a year now. So we're actually now, of all of the, what they call GMV, gross monthly volume, we are now, marketplaces is about, cross-border trade is about 12% of all of our GMV. So it's been huge growth. Again, that goes back to the point of not knowing what's out there until you try it and what people will buy. The other initiative outcome is, we were able to maintain margins on the website. And, despite that debate that we had about price parity, the fear was, we're going to lose if we, have price parity on eBay because they're going to see that, we have the same price and they're going to shop there instead. We have not lost one customer. We have not gone down in monthly sales. We've actually only increased it. So again, be everywhere where the customer is. So top lessons learned from e-commerce. Again, be everywhere a potential customer is. So that means website, that means social. There's a lot of free things that you can do out there. Amazingly productive free things that you can take advantage of. Affiliate networks and marketplaces, again, to dip your toe in the water. Again, people shop for many reasons, so don't exclude any channel. A lot of reasons why people will shop on, as an example, eBay, again, going back to that, is, a lot of people have like PayPal credit, or they'll have, eBay will run like a 20% off option. When Amazon comes, they're going to be releasing in the upcoming months what's called Amazon Prime, which is a club that you join, and you pay a certain amount every year. In the U.S., I still am a Amazon Prime customer. I pay over $100 every year, even though I don't live there, and I get a lot of advantages, including free shipping. So, those are different reasons why people will go back to those sites and continue to shop. So, again, so don't spend all your investment on a website or ad spend. There's a lot of ways to drive traffic to your site. Don't go out, spend a lot of money on a website or a lot of money with Google. Google has plenty of money, believe me. There's a lot of different ways to drive traffic. Start early now. Christmas is coming. So even if you have a website that you've just launched or it's been live for a couple of years or you're just thinking about it, get on it. NAB, was it NAB, I believe, or Commonwealth Bank just released some stats. It was NAB, actually. They released some recent stats on the growth of e-commerce in Australia, and it's phenomenal. It's growing double digits, and it's going to continue to grow. So get on the bandwagon and start selling your products. So just a couple suggestions. These are actually places that I go daily for information and updates and ideas. And it's a way to connect with whatever you're selling, to get ideas of what's going on online. There's a couple great places to go here. And events. So if you're looking at different events, this is a great event. But if you're looking at different events to get involved with, here's some e-commerce specific focused events that you should get involved with. Meetup is one of them. Obviously, it's not just e-commerce, but think of attending some of these and learning more. So with that, I would really like to thank all of you for listening to me, and I look forward to your questions here shortly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. I think some of the insights shared are absolutely fantastic. Personally, I think Amazon would be a game changer for the industry, particularly in retail and e-commerce. I encourage everybody to read a little bit more into it and pay close attention when they're launching Australia. When we look at e-commerce around the world, I see a lot of similarities in various markets, even in China, which is something that we do quite extensively. When you look at supply and demand, marketing, all of the fundamentals are exactly the same. So even though Mark spoke at length about Australia, about New Zealand, about Southeast Asia, a lot of the principles are the same. Get to where the customers are. For our next speaker, I would like to invite Catherine from Aroma Baby. She's done a lot of amazing things in the Chinese market. So.
Thank you so much. I'll just add to Mark, that was great. Another one I like to look at is Daley. If anybody wants to subscribe to that, I find it has a lot of really great articles as well. I'm not sure if many of you know my background, so I won't go too much into that, but we'll give you the business snapshot because we've only got limited time. So I launched Aroma Baby in 1994 out of a personal need, and that's how a lot of great ideas are born. I don't have a lot of other background apart from having done this for 2 decades, but I'm glad that I stuck at it. So I think, when your WeChat's going more than your SMS is going, you're doing some serious stuff in China. So for us, it was about innovating way back then. Some of these things are quite common now, but you need some really strong points of difference in order to stand out in both your Australian market, which is kind of a global market these days anyway, and also your export market. So for us, we left out some of the ingredients and developed a personal care brand for mother and baby that was the first of its kind in the world at the time. And we can then leverage off that fact to actually market ourselves in other regions. So for us, we had to establish a really strong brand story. And because there was no other products of that kind, education and information was a really important part of what we did. And we had to have a very niche product, but really specialised, and that's also held us in really good stead. We don't have women's, we don't have men's, although I did develop a men's product because I was gifting George Clooney 15 years ago, but that was for personal reasons. So I do own lots of brands, I do other things, I do other consulting, but my main focus in this area is very specific, and I really focused on being the expert in one specific market. Building your profile, building the brand reputation. For me, I actually left school at 15. I went back to study in my 30s, and I did a lot of tactile stuff because I was very passionate about education in the health professional space as well as to consumers. So I'm an infant massage instructor, I'm an aromatherapist, I do a lot of freelance writing on a range of things from business, travel, style, but also skincare, natural, organic, baby and mother, of course, as well. To be the expert, I think, is a really, really important thing. So there may not be a lot of space to be experts in your particular field, but if there is, or if you can find a way to have a point of difference and stand out for one small little specific expertise area, then I really strongly recommend doing that, because that's the kind of thing that some of the export markets need from you in order to help you stand out in those markets. We actually got a very established in the pharmacy market very early on. So you can see here we knocked off Curash in 2004. That's a very long time ago. This market became very, very saturated. There's a lot of copycat brands. So we really focused our efforts on export, and it was fairly reactive. It wasn't very proactive and planned. It wasn't a particular strategy back then. There was no e-commerce. There was no Alibaba. There was not really a lot of internet. So this is very, very traditional channel selling, and having a very sort of research-based health product to be in pharmacy was like the ideal area for us. But once it became very flooded and the value started to dilute in Australia, we thought, well, the market's very small, let's look at what else there is. And just at that time, we also were approached by people from South Korea and also people from the Middle East. So there was no shortage of interest in encouraging us to do export. So again, like all the export markets that I looked at, I went there. I remember going to Dubai. My little guy was 4 years old. That was the first overseas trip I had left him, so it was really, really difficult for me. But I did the same thing that I was doing in Australia in Dubai. So I went to the hospitals, I did workshops, I trained, I did everything. So my business model is more around education and sharing information, and it's not just about selling a brand. But of course, with that builds brand credibility and it increases sales. South Korea, the same thing. I actually don't really like public speaking, but I think if you're passionate about what you do, you just share your story. And if it's, you're laughing, but it's true. If it is something that you do love, it's okay to share your story. And I think you find a lot of joy and a lot of satisfaction in being able to do that. Hong Kong's another thing. If there's a baby around, the baby will be in my arms. So for me, it's like something that it's just been a huge part of the brand ethos the whole way through. My children are now 17 and 23, but if there's a baby around, I will be the person that grabs it. So again, reproducing that model in every market that we've exported to. Then there's China. So before you even want to go to China, these are the sorts of things that I would encourage you to look at. I remember meeting with a very, very high profile, very successful e-commerce platform owner last year. And when he said, do you have your IP protected? I said, yes. And he said, well, there was a table, so it was with a translator. And they said, oh, does she understand the question? I said, yes, I have my IP protected. You have your trademark protected? Yes. So I actually flicked through my folder, because he wasn't interested in the folder and my financials. He was interested in the brand ethos and the brand heritage. So I found the photo of the trademark, and he was so excited. So I think, this is a lot of things that people don't do this. Before you want to go to China, you need to secure all your IP, and that includes your trademarks in Chinese-sounding names. So we are not Aroma Baby, we are Ailame. Social media handles, Chinese domain names. If you've got a famous brand in Australia, be sure that someone's registered your domain name, .cn and .com.cn. So grab those first. It's not expensive. For under $50, you can get 2 domain names, and they can sit there and you can never use them. If you have an idea, get the domain names. WeChat, and all these things are really important, so you can build a brand, a stable of ways to promote your brand in the market. If you don't protect your brand, this is the sort of thing that can happen. Now, those of you in the mother and baby space may have heard of Mastella. This is Mastella. And this was in a Chinese trade show just a few months ago. So they will have a spin on your name if it's big and famous, and if they think they can get something out of it. There's always ways to reinvent the wheel. So it's worth protecting everything that you can. Why China? Why not? Have a look at the difference here. 300,000 births. When I started, it was like 220,000 per annum, and we've just got so many more millions of babies being born in China. Apart from the population, we have a premium, very niche product, so we only are appealing to that top 1%, if that, of the market. So very, very clear on what our offering is. It's beautiful, affordable, luxurious product, made in Australia. We're not moving offshore. Our packaging is local as well, but this is the reason. The sheer mass and the population means that you can have some sort of success in the smallest niche of ways. Before you want to even look at an export market, in particular China, what are these things that you need to look at? Are you actually export ready? Do you have a really strong, unique selling proposition? You need an agent or a distributor, or you're going to sell online. For us, we only went online a few years ago, and we did it the only way that was available to us, which was bricks and mortar. Looking at the culture and learning the culture, understanding the way that different cultures do business. In the e-commerce space, their buying decisions, their buying habits is really important. Investment in carrying stock, extra staff, bilingual team, warehousing, or even outsourcing. Can you afford to invest in all of these things in order to grow your market, be it online or in stores? And what are the barriers? So for some of these markets that we're in, there are regulatory restrictions unless you register products. China's quite difficult. CIQ, animal testing in some cases, KFDA in Korea, Malaysia has registration, Taiwan has registration. So these are all the sorts of things that you want to look at depending on where you want to sell. Test the market, go there, get on the ground, get passionate about where you're going to sell. And for me, I'm a very passionate person, so wherever I sell, whatever I do, I really try and immerse myself in it. I've learned a few words of Chinese. I go there to my distributors and say, use me, let me help you, let me do whatever it is that you need to help to add value to what you're doing. And they kind of think I'm a bit crazy. I've had two distributors in China. The ones I have now are more second-tier city, very, very strong cultural background, whereas my first distributors were US-educated, Shanghai-based, very, cool guys. So these people don't know, why am I in China? What are you doing here? Why are you here? Why are you exhibiting on your own? Why are you running workshops? This is our job. So it's taken me 2 years to explain to them the business is still going after 23 years because I am here, I am present, I am passionate, and I am involved. And it's not a threat to them, it's actually just the way I do business. It's my style. So get on the ground and go and enjoy it. Support. So, there's meetings, they're long days. You'll eat the same food, you'll have things stolen, you'll be overwhelmed, but when you go and you see your products, and that's all my products in the green, when you see your products in a retail store, even if you know they're already there, it is the most rewarding feeling I cannot tell you. And I was probably bursting, that's my quiet smile, but I would have been bursting with pride and happiness and try and SMS a photo to my sons and they go, yeah, Mum, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I know, yeah, we know. So, it's important to have a supportive team around you that really gets what you're doing and the enormity of achieving success like getting a product onto a store shelf where no other brand has. Getting momentum, collaborate everywhere you can. Use your every kind of little angle for media, for marketing. Talk to people, be an influencer yourself. Share knowledge, but approach it in a way that you're being of service and you're trying to add value to other people, not looking at it from a point of what's in it for me. So I sent products to Princess Mary. I didn't think that the Daily Mail would pick it up a month ago and run an international story, but that's what can happen if you've got the material to use and you are clever in the way you put it to market, then you can get lots of exposure. Building the brand. So for me, building the brand means playing with babies sometimes, and I'm just as good around a boardroom table as I am holding a baby and teaching massage. So it is a very tactile part of what I do, but it brings me back to the core and the ethos of why I started, which was for my first-born baby 23 years ago. There's another store. This one here is Watson's. So how are you going to sell? Are you selling offline or you're selling online or you're doing a mixture of both? We've recently gone, as I said, into the e-commerce space. We were one of the first merchants on the AusPost store. actually part of a pilot with ANZ Bank. So again, have great relationships with your bank. They're all doing marketing, they're all promoting small business. Look at different service providers that you use and see who's marketing and advertising and who could use your business as a case study. Again here, so for us, AusPost was a fantastic entry into e-commerce because all the translations and all the material was put together. It was a low-cost entry and it was easy to sit back and watch how does this beast work. Still trying to work it out, and because we have products in retail stores, we've got a lot of effort and energy being focused on that part because it's a really, really difficult market to get into, and we're at the same time trying to look at what's going on with e-commerce and trying to understand what's happening in this space as well. Again, I think it's a different mentality in online purchasing. I did a live stream in China a few months ago. We had a special offer. We sold like 50 of something, and within 24 hours, 30 got returned because they were all doing it for the free product. So, you know, there's a lot of cost involved in that. I'm glad it was 50 products and not 500 or 5,000, but this is why we're dipping our toe in the water with e-commerce. Watson's would never have happened if I wasn't on the ground putting people together to make sure that my agent contacted the right buyers, who contacted the right procurement team. And Watson's doesn't mean that you're in 2,000 stores. It means that you've got to work your backside off to stay relevant, to move some stock, and if it doesn't work, how can you leverage off being in that major store to promote your brand outside of that store? So that's what we did. There's a Singapore company that we sell to that's also got stores on Tmall, so that's what the one is up the top. Again, you know, getting product out there and making sure that you get in amongst it. This is live streaming in Melbourne. That's a celebrity in, I think she's a Chinese celebrity, but she was shopping in Taiwan and the paparazzi were following her, and we happened to get our shot of product in the newspapers. So it's about looking at every single angle and exploring every way that you can possibly leverage to get some brand awareness, because it's really tough to stand out. Leveraging awards. There's no point getting an award if you're not going to do something about it. I think the Hong Kong Australia Business Association awards that we won for Victoria, guys, late last year, I didn't even know there was a national award. I was just going there as an Australian business and we won, which was great. But they actually looked at not just sales and numbers, they looked at what are you doing in the market? What are you giving back? How are you building brand Australia in Hong Kong and China? So it's not just about numbers, it's about lots of different things and lots of different effort. But what's the point of winning an award like I did last week? This was for Victoria, but it was the national award. If you're not going to put it up, that's 12,000 people that saw that. So it's not about the award, it's about talking to a wider audience about an Australian product or about your branding or whatever it might be. It could be that you want to position yourself as an expert in the Australian market in a particular space. But if you're not going to leverage off what you achieve, without blowing your own trumpet, you kind of have to, in a humble way. As long as you're providing information and a reason, then I think go for it. These are some of the other things that I've done. The WeChat promotions, advertising in Australia, awards in Australia. You have to pay to enter the award and then you have to pay to use the, you know, it's kind of like not really the way I imagined an award to go, but you sort of have to be in it anyway, because if you are not in it, all the consumers think, oh my God, Aroma Baby didn't win anything. And that's because we didn't pay to enter. Anyway, so look outside your market and see if there's some other big brands to collaborate with. And if you position yourself as an expert, you'll find some of these big brands come knocking. So I've done lots of work with Huggies. Had an opportunity to be interviewed for ANZ with Naomi Simpson earlier in the year. And again, you know, it's the most traction we've ever had on LinkedIn. It was a fantastic opportunity. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So the last audience I did was about 700 midwives. And you sort of sit there and pinch yourself thinking, wow, you kind of can't believe it. But you're there doing it. So I think, you know, the journey's been 20 years for me. And I've got the qualifications and I'm passionate, but you need to share it, you need to do something with it, and that's what I do. And you have to have a bit of fun. So this is us being stupid, and we actually made some body products, so it's not just about formal education. These are health professionals having a bit of fun. And this is the reason I do it. 谢谢你.
Thank you so much. It's always fantastic to see a founder of a business to be so energetic and so passionate about what you do. So congratulations on your success. A lot of what Catherine spoke about in terms of visiting a country, I think it's absolutely essential. If you decide to export, go there and see what's it like. Go to a supermarket. You know, it's one of the first advice that I often give to a lot of businesses considering export. But also a lot of the groundwork in terms of speaking to people, the consumers, engaging with the community, equally translate to online as well. When you are in China, look at Weibo, look at WeChat, where people congregate. You know, that's an excellent place and podium for your brand as well. So I think we're with the question and answer time. So I would like to invite Mark and Catherine back, and maybe the audience can ask us a couple of questions. Maybe I'll kick things off, potentially with Mark first. In terms of the e-commerce activities that you do, what's the most effective medium to acquire your customers on? Is it social media? Is it organic traffic through marketplaces?
Yeah, so ironically with Catch Group, it's surprising to me as well, it's been EDMs. So a lot of people say that email's dead because of all the constraints around opting in, opting out with emails. Definitely take advantage of that. So I would say for a young budding e-commerce business, invest well in your email marketing service. So don't just go with the cheapest one out there. There's a lot of automation that you can have that will drive a lot of traffic. So we still get 40% plus of our new business from that source. So
wow, okay. Just a follow-up question, because I'm really keen about this as well. How do you acquire the email addresses? Do you go purchase databases or?
Yeah, sorry. So I probably answered that, and I realized that when I was going through it. So not through new customer acquisition, through ongoing product sale acquisition. So from increased sales of doing EDMs properly, but from new customer acquisition, we found that the biggest thing for us, again, surprisingly, has been going back to the old school catalogs. And that's been, we do now over 700,000 catalogs every 6 weeks. And you would think that print catalog's dead, but if you want to reach out, especially going back to the regional areas and areas that you may not be doing most of your sales in, that's actually been incredibly powerful for us.
Great. That's a really remarkable answer, converting offline traffic to online, asking consumers to go to catch.com.au. Okay, thank you so much. So my question for Catherine is, if you have to give advice to yourself 3 years ago, what would it be?
I probably would have started my e-commerce journey a little bit earlier. We're quite heavily invested in the offline space, and the investment that we've had to make to get products registered and onto store shelves means we need to be committed in that area for a little while longer, and then your limited resources to then invest in some other areas. So perhaps we would have lightened off and started our e-commerce a little earlier.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
Can you, Catherine, get market data on your consumers by doing giveaways?
You mean giveaways overseas in China or in Australia?
Yeah, just say you're in China and you want to give away a bunch of your baby products as a promotion. Can you do that and tie it in with getting data on the consumer, so that if they give you their name and address and what have you,
absolutely, but it depends.
They get a free bottle.
Yeah, it depends who you're using, who you're working with, whether you do it directly. Well, you can't really do it directly, but absolutely there would be a criteria to redeem whatever it is that you're giving. But it can be as easy as you're in a room with 500 people and you ask them all to join your WeChat group, and then you send an offer through your WeChat group, and then they share it through theirs. So there are lots of different ways, and it could be that the criteria is they need to share it twice, or they need to show you a screenshot or something.
Oh, so it's something that you would do through your own WeChat sales
It
portal
could be,
rather than negotiating with someone like Alibaba to do it for you?
It could be either. I would be going with a smaller platform because we're a more niche brand. We don't sell off our WeChat as such, but we would direct them to either retail stores or the AusPost store or something like that.
Just Tim Carroll from Austrade, a comment in support of Catherine's very wise and excellent advice around IP in China. IP Australia, who manages IP in Australia, have placed their first overseas posting in Beijing fairly recently. He's available for advice. He's an IP advisor in China. They're publishing trademark search guides on how to use the very well-developed search tools. And in fact, he's been looking into what's happening in China, and he's saying 90% of Australian companies that have run into issues with IP in China haven't looked and followed the local rules. So your advice is spot on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Laura?
I've got a question for both. I think you mentioned about your experience. It seems to be very positive, and to see you on the ground really driving it personally for a long time. But Mark, you also mentioned about China. I'm going to tiptoe and try to let's see how it goes. And so maybe, question to both of you is, how did you get confident of trading and working that your business up in China, and would that her experience would change your attitude towards China journey, Mark?
Just jumping in a bit, can you guys hear the question from the front? Yeah, cool. All right.
Your microphone is
Look, I would say there's been an enormous amount of challenge, and it requires an enormous amount of flexibility and persistence and determination and passion. But is this not working? Oh,
Just thought it was my quiet voice. But everyone can hear, it's only a small room. So there are lots and lots of things that have gone wrong. There are lots of things that have happened. But I am a really positive person, and I focus on the positives. So it's not that they haven't happened. I just think that, you need to be positive, and you need to look at what's the lesson out of that, what's the learning, and how can this big event that I just did a little while ago, it was stopped. I did a smaller workshop. A midwife stopped and said, I want a certificate for something. And we had to, all she wanted was a certificate. She wasn't interested in learning. She just wants a piece of paper. So we had to rejig the whole workshop. So I could have walked out. I'm very sensitive. I could have walked out and just gone home to my children, because that's all I wanted to do. But I stayed there. I worked it out with the translator. We changed the format, and we ended with the fun part of making your own products. And I said, this is not part of your certificate. So if you don't want to do it, you can leave. Do you think anyone left? So we turned it around. It is not without its challenges, but it's really about listening to the consumer, or to whoever you're dealing with, and being spontaneous and being able to change it up on the spot, because you need to.
Yeah, so I think from my experience, I've been able to cheat a little bit with my previous role at Channel Advisor. I was able to help a lot of businesses get into China and kind of look at their experience and their wins and their losses. So I was able, to certainly get my head around that and kind of understand how to go in, which is why I'm going in cautiously with Catch Group. One of the main reasons too is we're not, as focused as one category. So, when you're across, multitudes of categories, there's a lot more considerations. So, to get back to Kathy's point, I would definitely say that investing time personally and being in the country, and then understanding, to Roy's point, going into the grocery store and being like, what's actually on sale here? What is selling? What's in the shopping carts? Don't just look what's on the shelves. What are people actually buying? And understanding what the price points are. So it's kind of, again, leveraging that personal experience of being there, and then look at what others are doing. A lot of, that's what I love about the online community. There's a lot of openness, because everything's out there on the World Wide Web. So, when you approach people, feel free to reach out to them, even on LinkedIn. Hey, I see you're selling in China. You don't have to tell me your trade secrets, but what were your hurdles? What were your challenges? And you'll be surprised of what people are willing to share.
I'd just like to add, while in the grocery store, not only by looking at what's on the shelves, what's in the shopping basket, pay attention to what people are doing. In China, where we know about China, but I'm sure in a lot of different markets, people exhibit behaviors differently. In China, everybody has a mobile phone. They're looking up the product on Taobao to see if they can get it for cheaper, right? Or scanning the QR codes and learning more about the brand, and doing lots of things. That's really different from here in Coles or any other retailer here.
I just on that point, I looked at a report today which comes out every year on, I don't know why I'm looking at this, but I found it fascinating, internet use in China, and I think it was 70% of purchases were made on the mobile phone. So this is an enormous consideration when you're doing your websites, when you're doing your marketing. It may not even be on a PC. And if you walk through Hong Kong and in China, you can often see girls in particular just purchasing clothing on their phone while they're walking or standing at the traffic lights. It is absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you. So we have time for 2 more questions, maybe.
Going back to the IP and that in China, where does that whole registration process start? Because that's where I'm at my journey at the moment. We have to protect ourselves in China, but I don't know.
It sounds like there's a great contact now that we have, but you can do a lot online.
About 5,000 RMB per month for a trademark. Takes about 2 weeks.
Easy, fantastic.
Okay, one last question. Yeah.
2 chairs away.
I got a question for Catherine. Like, what's the biggest challenge for you to find the right partner, like for you to distribute your products in China? Or what's the biggest challenge to establish the right bilingual team for you to export your products to China?
Okay, so we're only a small company. We outsource a lot of what we do. And in terms of our own team, we only have one Chinese-speaking. We're a team of 5. We're only a small team. But our China team, we've had, as I said, 2 different distributors. So the first one came to us. It was a natural, easy fit. The second one is quite different to. It's been a bit of a tough journey, and I think with the change in the opportunity in China, once you lock yourself into a contract, it's difficult to get out, and it's difficult to know who is the right partner. So I suppose, going back also to your question before, perhaps I wouldn't be giving as much territory to one distributor. You really need to understand their strengths and go there and have multiple meetings with them. We did have meetings, but there's still clearly some things that we didn't understand. And they will often just do anything and say anything to get the contract. They paid for the rights to distribute our product. They paid us. So, it's not all about that. If you've got an amazing brand, product, service that's well known and they want an opportunity to build their business with that product or service, they will practically do anything to get you over the line. But it could be a long-term problem, and if you want to get out of that contract, you may need, some help. The kinds of people that approach us now are so much larger and so much more established and have so much more resources. But I'm a very ethical person, and I need to handle my next phase very, very carefully. So it's a really big challenge. But you kind of just need to jump in. When you feel like it's right, you need to jump in and go for it, because that'll just be a learning experience. You can't not do anything. You've got to do something.
Thank you so much. I do encourage everybody to stay around for a little bit, and there's a network session with drinks and bite-sized bit of bite to eat as well. So again, can I get a round of applause for Mark and Catherine? And I'd like to offer you guys, a little bit of a gift from us and the Victorian government. Victorian wine. Best. Lastly, I'd like to thank our team for putting this together, and as well as the Victorian government for putting this, for Victorian companies. I encourage everybody to participate on the events coming up as well. Thank you very much.